Did you know Bob Marley's iconic dreadlocks and spiritual beliefs have deep roots in Hindu philosophy? From the sacred use of Ganja to the concept of universal unity, the connection between Rastafari and Hinduism is a story of cultural fusion that's been hidden for decades. But why has this explosive cultural fusion been hidden for so long? This is the untold story of how two worlds collided to create a global revolution. You'll never look at Marley's music the same way again. The narrative intertwining Bob Marley, the Rastafari movement, and Hindu philosophy is a compelling tale of cultural convergence, spiritual evolution, and the resilience of communities bound by shared hardships. To grasp the essence of this relationship, we must journey back to colonial-era Jamaica, a period when displaced Africans, severed from their ancestral roots, sought meaning and belonging in an unfamiliar world that had deprived them of both. In this climate of yearning and identity reconstruction, Rastafari emerged, significantly shaped by the spiritual traditions brought by Indian indentured laborers. Rastafari's origins trace back to the early 1900s, a time when Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican nationalist and ardent proponent of African empowerment, gained prominence. His philosophy emphasized unity, self-sufficiency, and a vision of repatriation to Africa. His declaration, "Look to Africa, where a black king shall be crowned," was perceived as a prophetic revelation. This vision appeared to materialize on November 2, 1930, when Haile Selassie I ascended to the Ethiopian throne, ruling over one of the few African nations that had resisted European colonization. To Rastafarians, Haile Selassie was more than a monarch. He embodied a divine figure, an anointed leader symbolizing redemption and the aspiration for a return to Zion, their promised land. However, Rastafari's evolution was not purely rooted in African traditions. The movement absorbed cultural and spiritual elements from India, brought by the nearly 37,000 Indian laborers who arrived in Jamaica between 1845 and 1929. These immigrants, many of whom adhered to Hindu beliefs, introduced a profound spiritual philosophy that influenced local thought. Among them was Leonard Howell, regarded as one of the earliest Rastafari leaders. Howell, who adopted the name Gangunguru marriage, clearly reflecting Indian linguistic heritage, played an instrumental role in defining the core principles of Rastafari. His teachings, which synthesized Hindu, Christian, and African spiritual ideas, laid the foundation for what would eventually become a worldwide cultural and religious movement. The Hindu impact on Rastafari is particularly evident in the mutual themes of exile, suffering, and the pursuit of liberation. The Ramayana and the Bhagavad Gita, sacred Hindu scriptures, deeply resonated with both African and Indian diasporic communities in Jamaica, as they had endured the collective trauma of displacement and oppression. The Ramayana's narrative of Lord Rama's exile and eventual return home closely paralleled the Rastafarian dream of repatriation to Africa, regarded as their spiritual Zion. Likewise, the Bhagavad Gita's teachings on Dharma, righteous duty, and the eternal soul, Atman, aligned with Rastafari's emphasis on spiritual self-awareness, environmental harmony, and the recognition of divinity in all life forms. Perhaps the most profound link between Rastafari and Hindu philosophy lies in the concept of I and I, a phrase that encapsulates the Rastafarian belief in universal interconnectedness. At first glance, I and I might appear as simple repetition, but its spiritual depth is immense. The first I signifies the personal self, akin to the Hindu notion of Atman, the eternal soul within each being. The second I represents the union of the individual soul with the greater cosmic existence, mirroring the Hindu concept of Brahman, the ultimate reality that permeates all life. This principle of unity, deeply embedded in both traditions, highlights the spiritual kinship between Rastafari and Hinduism, demonstrating that across different cultures and histories, the pursuit of truth and liberation remains a universal quest. Another profound connection between Hindu philosophy and Rastafari culture is the reverence for cannabis, known in Rastafari as Ganja. Unlike its common perception as a recreational substance, Ganja holds a sacred place within Rastafarian spirituality, serving as a conduit for heightened awareness, deeper introspection, and divine connection. This tradition traces back to the Indian laborers who migrated to Jamaica, carrying cannabis seeds and integrating the plant into their religious practices. Hindu ceremonies such as Kali Puja, dedicated to the fierce yet protective goddess Kali, incorporated the use of cannabis as an offering and as a means of spiritual elevation. These gatherings often included communal feasts, strengthening the bonds of unity and shared purpose among participants. The parallel use of cannabis in both Hindu and Rastafarian traditions underscores a shared belief in its role as a catalyst for spiritual enlightenment and communal harmony. The philosophical and lifestyle parallels between Hindu ascetics and Rastafarian followers further highlight the deep-rooted influence of Indian traditions. Much like the Hindu sadhus, spiritual renunciants withdraw from material pursuits to dedicate themselves to meditation and self-realization. Rastafarians reject mainstream societal values in favor of a life centered on simplicity, introspection, and spiritual devotion. The striking resemblance between the flowing, matted locks of Hindu sadhus and the iconic dreadlocks of Rastafarians is no coincidence. In both traditions, uncut hair symbolizes spiritual commitment, a rejection of imposed beauty norms, and a connection to one's natural self. Lord Shiva, one of Hinduism's most revered deities, is frequently depicted with matted locks, embodying asceticism, destruction of illusion, and transformation, concepts that align seamlessly with Rastafari ideals of rebirth, resistance, and spiritual awakening. Dietary customs further cement the connection between these two traditions. The Rastafarian Ital diet, centered around natural, plant-based foods while eschewing processed items and animal-derived products, bears a striking resemblance to the Hindu principle of ahimsa, or nonviolence. Many Hindus adhere to vegetarianism as an ethical and spiritual practice, viewing the consumption of meat as a disruption to the balance of life and a violation of compassionate living. Similarly, Rastafarians believe that consuming foods in their purest form enhances vitality and spiritual well-being, reinforcing their connection to the earth and the divine. Despite these significant intersections, the influence of Hinduism on Rastafari remains largely unacknowledged in mainstream discourse. Scholars such as Lakshmi Prasad and Ajay Munsingha have devoted their efforts to documenting the cultural contributions of Indian indentured laborers in the Caribbean, yet their work remains overshadowed by dominant historical narratives. The steadfastness of Hindu communities in preserving their religious identity, despite external pressures, undoubtedly contributed to the Rastafarian movement's defiance against colonial structures and its embrace of African and Indian spiritual ideologies. Bob Marley, the most recognized figure associated with Rastafari, embodied this synthesis of influences in his music and lifestyle. His reggae anthems, infused with messages of social justice, spiritual awakening, and African empowerment, captivated audiences worldwide. However, beneath the surface of his fame lies an overlooked yet profound connection to Hinduism. His dreadlocks, his ritualistic use of Ganja, and his philosophy of unity and interconnectedness all echo core Hindu tenets. In many respects, Marley's role in the global spiritual landscape mirrors that of a modern-day sadhu, a visionary who used his art to challenge oppression, spread wisdom, and inspire collective consciousness. The intertwined stories of Bob Marley, Rastafari, and Hinduism serve as a powerful testament to the impact of cultural exchange and shared struggles. This is not merely a tale of migration and adaptation, but a narrative of resilience, mutual influence, and the unyielding human quest for truth and belonging. As we continue to explore the intricate web of global spirituality, it is vital to recognize the unseen threads that unite diverse traditions, an enduring reminder that across different cultures, faiths, and histories, the search for meaning is a universal and timeless pursuit. Did Bob Marley's spiritual journey blow your mind? From Hindu philosophy to Rastafari roots, the connections are wild. But what's your take? Was Marley the ultimate bridge between these two worlds? Let us know in the comments below. What's the most surprising link you discovered? And if you could ask Marley one question about his beliefs, what would it be? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories about the hidden forces behind music legends. Drop your thoughts. Let's uncover the truth together.